My name is Robbin Miller. I am the host of Miller Chat. Today is March 2nd, 2021. This is my second show of the year. I am doing it from home through Zoom. My guest today is Sanam Zaer, who's running for school committee. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, tell you the viewers, who are you as a candidate for school committee?
So I am Sanam Zaer. I live here in Shrewsbury with my husband and my 3 kids. I have a kindergartner at Beale, a 2nd grader at Spring Street, and a 10th grader at Shrewsbury High School. If you hear them running in the background or yelling, I apologize in advance. I grew up next door in Grafton and graduated from Algonquin Regional in Northborough. I went to UMass Amherst after that and got my bachelor's degree in journalism and English. And I also have a master's degree in education. I taught 9th grade English, and I also taught ESL at Houston Community College. And I did that until my 7-year-old was born. And I've been home with my kids since then. We just bought our house here in Shrewsbury a few years ago. And being home with my kids, I've really had the opportunity to really get involved in all aspects of their education and, get involved with the PTOs, the school councils, various committees. So to me, school committee is just another way to get involved, and it's something I'd just like to be a part of.
Yeah, it's definitely a big step up from serving on a PTO.
It is. I didn't actually serve on a PTO. I did just participate in it, but I've been involved in school council at both Beale and Spring, and sort of looking at these more administrative and bigger picture items. And then I had the opportunity to serve on a few different committees. Before the pandemic, I was on the homework committee, and we were working with district leaders to look at the homework policy and determine the best path forward. That work was cut in half because of, or it was stopped because of the pandemic. Most recently, I was on the redistricting committee. So that was another opportunity, to look at some of the changes that need to be made and work with different leaders across town. So I really like that kind of work. So it's, I'm excited about the potential of being on school committee. Running for office is a little bit out of my comfort zone because I'm not a politician. I'm really just, I care about the schools and education, and that's the only reason I'm running, because it's just something I'd like to be involved in.
Well, that many that serve on that committee have either attended the school district or they have served Shrewsbury in many different ways, either being a parent or being a doctor or being, a store owner or a business owner. The whole beauty of democracy is that there's really no written rules about what kind of background you need to run for office. Comes to your local area,
Yeah.
So yes, it is definitely a big step and definitely out of your comfort zone. It is. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, especially for women.
Yeah.
I think it's great. So what are the strengths of the school district that you find that you admire?
I would say the first strength I would list is that, okay, thank you, sorry. Okay, can you guys go? I have a meeting. Sorry, I knew that they would interrupt me. I think the first strength I would definitely highlight are that educational and financial decisions here are very data-driven. I had the opportunity to serve on multiple committees, and the expectation for the parent representatives on those committees, it's not just to read the data, but also to give opinions that are rooted in it. I think this is extremely important because it brings everyone together on the same page and looking at the same set of facts, which already puts us ahead when it comes to making big decisions. You don't really get caught up in debating certain facts because everyone's looking at the same set of facts. And then on a similar note, throughout the state, reopening was this big experiment with data kind of coming in live and changing frequently. And I think our district's response was very measured and data-driven. It was not flawless, but I do believe we were well ahead of many other districts during the pandemic. And I can definitely see all the work that was put in to make that happen. Another strength that I would highlight in the district is that district leaders have really shown that they're able to identify and acknowledge areas that need improvement and additional investment. I think this is extremely important because it keeps us forward thinking and constantly improving. Even in the last few years, I have noticed changes not just in curriculum, but in school culture. And I think this is a reflection of the growth mindset that exists here in Shrewsbury, particularly among district leaders. If I had to pick a third strength, I would probably say we have a very strong focus on mental health and social emotional learning at every level. And I've seen that in my own house, and I see it across the district, and I see it in correspondence. You know, the teachers are really teaching the kids how to, you know, identify their emotions and communicate their emotions and navigate their emotions. And even last week, my second grader, she was in an all-school meeting with the Spring Street principal, and you know, I look over at her and her eyes are closed and she's meditating. He was just kind of leading them in some kind of meditation. And you know, these are important for these kids. And serving on school council, same thing. They're kind of talking about, you know, these increased rates of anxiety and depression and what we can do as a school community to fix that. And also at the high school level, one thing that's important that I just learned about this resource, but it's an amazing resource. We're one of the only schools in Massachusetts that offers the BRIGHT program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that program, but a program that offers mental health care and academic support for youth that are transitioning back in school from a long absence. And unfortunately, long absence is usually a mental health issue. But the fact that we have that resource in place is really amazing. And it really shows that we're kind of, again, it's a forward thinking resource that's in place. I don't even think many people know about that resource because you don't really learn about it until you need it, unfortunately, but it's great that that resource is in place. And I think it sets us apart from many other districts that we have that priority.
Well, I think it's important. I work on the community college level, and we have a lot of people coming with diverse challenges, like you mentioned, mental health. And our college I work with a coach, we do our best to help them succeed. We understand those challenges, but it's good that it's out in the open, because when I went to school in the 70s, I went to a city school in Queens. You just had to put up and shut up what you feel.
Yeah.
Wow. But yes, I think that's a really significant strength, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's important now, especially because the rates of anxiety and depression among youth are, they're really getting worse. And that's not even including the pandemic, which is, I mean, that's going to take it in a worse direction. Even though we don't have those numbers yet, I think it's very obvious that that's the direction we're headed in. And I think we're a step forward in that, since we have these resources in place, but it will certainly need to make more investments here as we move forward and navigate this.
So if you succeed and become elected, what would be what are your top 3 priorities that you want to do?
I'd probably, So I think
would be fine.
Well, I think the biggest challenge right now in the district is the education budget. There are inequities at the state level that need to be reconciled, including how we fund our schools in the first place, I think. But here in Shrewsbury, we have the ability to, you know, fully fund our schools, and I hope we can come together as a community to do this. I think it was outrageous that teachers took an increased workload with a pay freeze this year. This shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be okay with that. And I really appreciate the advocacy of the current school committee for this additional funding. This is something that I plan on advocating as well and doing whatever I can to help move that forward. Another challenge in the district is obviously the return to in-person classes.
Yes.
In general, I think that district leaders have done a great job with everything. And I also think it's, you know, very easy for us as parents to sit and give our thoughts about this process without being directly involved in these conversations. Sorry, let me, Talia and Kimia, can you guys please go outside? Guys, please stop. Sorry, I meant to mute myself for that, but it's okay. I apologize for them.
Your mom.
Yeah, it's just this is it. And I've lost all control in my own house. They're not even listening to me. I don't even think they heard me say to be quiet. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, I was talking
Priority.
about
Priority. That's fine. No, you're talking about priorities. Go ahead.
Okay. So we were talking about, as parents, we can, sit back and look at everything and say, okay, I would do this differently. I would do this differently, but it's really difficult to kind of give feedback on that. So I don't claim to have any kind of specific answers or anything I would do differently. But I do think that what I would bring to the table is a lot of different perspectives. In my house alone, my children range greatly in both age and vulnerability. I also have a very diverse social network of families with a very wide range of concerns right now. So as we begin to bring students back into the classroom full time and begin to reconcile these post-pandemic inequities, I think my perspective will be really helpful with a lot of work that needs to be done moving forward. Another priority of mine, and I think anybody who knows me knows that this is a priority of mine, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a self-identified challenge in the district. The district voluntarily conducted an equity audit last year to get a better idea of what this looks like. And I believe district leaders understand that investments need to be made in this regard. I hope that if an override is passed, we can, identify areas where investments can be made. I also think there's a lot that can be done that doesn't require immediate financial investments. I also hope that just by running for school committee, more non-white people will feel encouraged to run for office and seek out leadership roles throughout the district. There's certainly a lot of them, there's a lot of opportunities to get involved, and I hope that that's something that we'll see more. But that's, I think that answers your question. I'm sorry for the interruption of my children. They're outside.
All right. You're showing the view with your human.
Yeah.
Human. It happens. So the thing is, regarding equity and inclusion and diversity, I think it's great that you're supporting that, and you're definitely an advocate for it. I think, I've been here since 1997. I'm not from Massachusetts. I'm from New York. And I lived in Worcester 3 years, and then I came out here with my spouse. And now I have a child who's biracial. I noticed that there was a lot of more Caucasians in positions of power in Shrewsbury as well as the state. And I think it's really important as Shrewsbury diversifies, because now 35% I believe the population is non-Caucasian. And I think our government, from school to Board of Selectmen and the commissions, the different commissions, it really needs to be representative of the people that live in the town. To have a voice.
And the statistic you mentioned, actually in the schools, I think this is the first year that the student population is predominantly non-white. I think it was 51% non-white. So this is, the first time we have that shift where the majority is actually non-white. So yeah, I mean, it would be great to see more diversity in leadership positions, because we were talking about the equity report. If you look at the equity report, which I've read it multiple times, not that many families engaged and offered feedback. And the reason for that is because as a non-white person, you can never really be anonymous. I've personally had, issues with people throughout the district, but there's things that I can't really speak about, because if I do, it's easy to identify who I'm talking about. It's easy to identify that I was the one that said it, that it was this specific situation. There's really no way to be anonymous, and people know that. And it's really hard to speak up in those situations. So a lot of the perspectives that were not in the equity audit are just ones that you hear just by having a diverse group of friends, because that stuff just comes up in conversation. People just tell you, I had a bad day because of this reason. It's not an issue where, they're going to get on the phone and call the superintendent about, but it's definitely an issue that you talk to your friends about. So I feel like I have a lot of perspectives that I bring to the table in terms of, moving forward, because we're going to have to really navigate kind of a new education system now, because kids are coming in with very different experiences. You have some that are, receiving private one-on-one tutoring and extracurricular activities. You have others that are home by themselves. You have some that are hybrid, some that are remote, some that are, not even attending classes because they can't and they don't know that their families can't support them for whatever reason, or their parents are at work, or there's just so many different reasons why so many people are having a very wide range of experiences right now. So that's going to be something that needs to be navigated with care and with a very diverse, with all these perspectives, at the table.
Yeah, I think, and also the going back by April 1st for elementary. I'm not sure in the middle of high school. For the seniors in high school, if they have to go back in May, a lot of them are just going to check out, because they only have 30 days more in May before they graduate. But that's going to be a big transition if it happens on that date, on April 1st.
It could. To be honest, I don't really know what the intent was from the state level to kind of push in that direction. There's a really wide range of experiences throughout the state. Our kids have had the opportunity to attend hybrid for the most part. Our kids, as in Shrewsbury kids, were next door in Worcester. They haven't even seen a classroom for a year now, since last March. So I don't know how that will be reconciled by the state. I think that's something that needs to be reconciled. In terms of us moving back to in-person, I think it's a big ask for the district to do something like that because of space constraints, budget constraints, all of these issues. I do hope that there's a stronger focus specifically on the most vulnerable kids in the district. Maybe expanding cohort A and offering other kids a seat in cohort A that maybe weren't eligible before, but maybe we can expand that definition and let these kids in to try to alleviate some of these inequities. I think, again, it's hard to kind of sit without knowing all the constraints and all the things happening behind the scenes, but in general, in this situation, in this pandemic, where we're watching educational inequities just become worse, I really think it's the time for us to focus on the most vulnerable kids and make sure that they're getting the best that they can right now, so that when we come back, the gap isn't as big.
Yeah, I think history has shown that when there's crises that occur through history, the health disparities across culture and disability become more apparent, become more open. It's just people, having been an advocate for people with disabilities over the years, they've always said if there's a crisis, we're the last to go. And we're shown by the healthcare. 62 to 65% of people in nursing homes die from COVID.
Yeah. I mean, these are things that as a society, we really need to sit down and decide, where are our priorities? Where do we want to make our investments? It's shown us a lot that we need to work on. And, right now that we're in it, I think a lot of us are in survival mode for multiple reasons, some way worse than others.
Yeah.
But, as people get more vaccinated and we start to kind of, go back to normal, we kind of have this opportunity now to redefine what that normal is. We can see what's working, what's not working, and sort of change that. We really have an opportunity to revolutionize a lot of what we're doing if we're up for that kind of challenge.
Well, that's the whole point of school committee. You can evaluate what stays and what goes.
Yeah.
When the new normal comes, I guarantee people will be more self-conscious of being clean, making sure their hands are clean.
Yeah.
And I think now it's okay not to go to school or go to work if you feel sick.
Yeah, which is so weird because, before, like, I remember myself, I would just chug NyQuil, DayQuil, and I would just keep going forward. But now it's like, you have a little runny nose, everything stops. You stay home, you take care of yourself. It's just, that was an interesting shift. My kids haven't been sick in over a year, which is so strange. My husband was looking in the cabinet. He's like, why do you have so much Vicks? And I was like, we usually use all this Vicks. We don't use this year.
Yeah. Well, I think education in America is in for that revolution that you described. Being more a growth mindset, promoting equities, decreasing inequities, and how we educate children and teens. And I think that COVID is going to have to be part of the history curriculum when this is over. And that's something school committee has to figure out how to implement and pay for, because everything's all about money.
Yeah.
How to pay for things. So what's your view on mandates? One of the big issues schools have is mandates that are not funded.
Mandates that are not funded.
Yeah.
Can you
That's
give
a big issue. You know, like, or even, yeah, like sometimes, you know, like, you know, if they need to implement things. So for example, you know how they have to give the extra hour for the kids who are doing a remote hybrid? Well, that's more time for teachers. That's more time for staff. There's no reimbursement for that.
Yeah, no, there's not.
There's more time.
I don't think that, you know, and I'm saying this as a teacher also, it's already an overwhelming and underpaid position. I don't think it's fair. It's not fair that we would ask more of teachers. And I'm saying this, you know, watching teachers rise to this, you know, huge task and doing such an amazing job. But, you know, that's somewhere where we can come in as a community by passing an override and saying, you know, this year, honestly, when we went into it, I was kind of thinking, you know, here we are as a community, we're going to, you know, give teachers hazard pay for going back into the, but that's not what happened. Instead, they ended up taking a pay freeze. They made a sacrifice, you know, to help with the budget issues. And I don't think the community really felt that. I don't think I think they forgot for the most part. Some people remember, teachers definitely remember. But I think that, you know, again, this is a time to, you know, look at these things and say, okay, you know, these teachers are with our kids all the time. How can we, you know, show them actual appreciation? And I think that looks like advocating for them to, you know, be paid for their work and not have extra work put on top of them. You had mentioned that mandate with the 1 hour. Again, I don't know the intent of some of these state mandates, because, you know, you really can't compare like somewhere like Shrewsbury, who's had, you know, my 10th grader was on the soccer team in the fall, but in Worcester, they haven't even, you know, gone to a essential class in a classroom since last year. I don't know how the state is reconciling, you know, that extra hour. What does that mean, you know, in the grand scheme of what's happening in the state? In general, I think these mandates, you know, they should be for the most vulnerable kids in the district. Like, you know, if we're going to add an hour, let that hour be for the kids who are struggling. My 2 younger kids, they're not struggling. They don't need an extra hour, but I know that there's a lot of kids that really do need that extra hour. So I wish that there was some space for those kinds of conversations where we could say, okay, you know, we need to add this extra hour. Let's, you know, give it to the kids who actually need it. And everyone else who is either surviving or can provide additional resources, they don't need to, you know, burden teachers or the school system with that. But again, I'm saying this as a parent who's not aware of, you know, these mandates, what the intent is. But I certainly question these things out loud. So, you know, as if I'm in a room and I'm told that there's a mandate, it's certainly things that I would question, and I would wonder, you know, why? What is the intent of this? Will that create the impact that we're looking for, or will something else create the impact that we're looking for? So I don't know if
it's an ongoing. No, it does. It's an ongoing issue that every school committee in the world, the world, have to deal with. And to back up a little bit, the Commissioner for Education even said that it's going to take a while for these kids, because of the pandemic, to catch up. It's going to take a while because, look, they missed 2 weeks this year. Last year, you know, they had the remote and they didn't really get grades in the last quarter. They got all either pass or fail. So yes, there will be some makeup. It depends how it's going to be, but that's how school committee is going to have to look all the school committees in the state are going to have to figure that out over time. What's that going to look like? What's that going to be? MCAS. We have less than 3.5 minutes. MCAS. Should they implement MCAS this year, or should they wait?
I'm a little bit torn about MCAS. 100%, I think that MCAS should not be a graduation requirement, especially during a pandemic. I think that's really unfair. I lean towards no on MCAS. I recognize the need for data, but for example, my 10th grader who would be taking the MCAS, I think she would get, and she's one of the most vulnerable kids in this district. I think that she would benefit far more from a week of instruction than she would sitting and taking this test that she will probably not do well in because it's a pandemic. So I lean towards no, because it's, I don't think the pros outweigh the cons in this situation.
And also for parents, do we have time to watch them take it at home? For those who do remote hybrid, a 4-day test, so 2 days would be home and 2 days would be in hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And I'm somebody who didn't do well on standardized tests. I just, I would freeze up. I didn't like to take them. They made me really anxious. And I don't think that they were accurate, they didn't paint an accurate picture of who I was and what I can do.
Yes, I agree with you.
Let's move away from those kinds of tests, but we're definitely not there yet. So that's my long answer, but I guess the short answer is no MCAS.
I think so, but we'll have to see how it goes. As you see, education is highly regulated since the beginning of time, of its inception in America, since the late 1800s, so to speak. So it's a highly regulated profession, field, institution, in America. So we have less than a minute to go. So how can people contact you?
I have a website set up. It is sanamforschoolcommittee.com. And all my contact information is there. So that's probably the easiest way to contact me. And I'm all over Facebook. I'm really active all over the place. And everyone is welcome to reach out to me just to have a conversation. We also have a Facebook group called A Better Shrewsbury, where we're, trying to have these conversations about local issues and social justice and local advocacy efforts. So people are welcome to join that group as well. And again, I'm available anytime for anyone that just wants to have a conversation.
Well, thank you, Sanam. Thank you very much for coming on my show. This has been another episode of Miller Chat. Sanam Zaer is running school committee, and her information will be provided that you can contact. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.